Okay,
I
it
want to
says,
learn.
okay, street.
You ought to know. Well, now you ought to know by now. You ought to know. Well, now you ought to know by now.
Ooh.
Very. Wow.
Okay,
There's
so how do I get that to stop playing? Oh, it's done. Okay, good. There was a little delay coming through your speakers. Beth Martens, how are you doing tonight?
I'm really good, really good. So nice to be here with you, Christopher. It looks like you got a sunset going on there.
Yes, I'm looking right at it. Like this office space, we're like nearing the home stretch in my home renovations. Like I'm literally putting trim on things. Like this place when we bought it was such a wreck. And so now I get to look out my office window and see the beautiful sunset this time of year and like actually not be in like a completely filthy, congested space. So like the whole family is rejoicing now. We actually have like real wood and ceilings and got rid of all the toxic stuff and it's just wonderful.
Fantastic. Congratulations. I always
Yeah.
thought that I would never do home renovations because I saw families break up over that. And I'm like, okay, just don't do that.
I'm blessed with the most wonderful wife in the world. She's so chill. Like she she gives me a very long leash. Like she's just like, yeah, I trust you, whatever. And so she's really happy because I just put in this massive 3 bay window in our kitchen. So now she has all this like natural light coming into the kitchen, and so she's so happy.
Oh, that's beautiful. I think I almost met her at an Acapulco, but she was laid up at the time.
Yeah, yeah. You met us at our worst. We were
And then
as you got it
yeah, and then
too.
I did it this year. I was there for the orientation, and then I went like kaboom down out for 5 days. Nobody saw me, and then I showed up on the last day, and they rescheduled my talk to the last day. So
Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness. Yeah. It
at
was a
least,
because I actually we flew to go see our parents in Florida first. We got food poisoning in Florida. And then just when we thought we were making the turn in Mexico, I ended up having that day that everybody ate salad at lunch and everybody kind of got dropped by the salad. I, that's what got me there. So my Mackenzie and my daughter were starting to feel better, but I didn't recover that entire trip.
yeah, it's brutal. I kind of vowed at day three, I'm locked in my room, and I'm going, I'm never coming to Mexico again. I just thought, okay, I'm done. Mexico, we're done. We're
Yeah.
breaking up.
Yeah, I feel you. Especially like that. Like I didn't really get the vibe. Like whenever I've been in Central America, because I lived there for so long, I always ventured into the mountains, like away from like, where there was touristy stuff. So in the mountains, you always have access to some clean water, hopefully. But like down in the tourist areas by the ocean, even where I was in Costa Rica, when you went down by the ocean, the water was super sketch, super sketch. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's much better on the Mayan Riviera because it's all a limestone base underneath, and microbes just don't grow there. But that side they do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It
Well,
was a
I'm
crazy trip. Oh, I was just gonna say it was super stressful to get there. There's no easy routes. It took me 2 days there, 2 days back. I ended up fingerprinted by the American border guards on the way out. They treated me like a an enemy for sure, and an enemy at every turn, every time I ran into them. And yeah, it was brutal. It was definitely stressful and
That's
intense.
terrible. That's terrible. You,
I know.
I can tell because I've traveled so much in the last 20 years. Progressively, travel has gotten worse and worse and worse. And you would think like, because I've gone up in income classes that like travel should get better. It has not. Like,
I
have you had the same experience?
Oh yeah, it's like punishment. Every time I travel, like I actually got invited to Vegas to do an interview, and I really want to go because it would be a great interview, great opportunity. But I'm just like, ugh, is it worth it? At least it's a direct flight from Winnipeg. Apparently, a lot of traffic from Winnipeg goes to Vegas. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, that's great that you got that. So I just want to say hello to people. I can actually see the chat in OBS now, which is fun. I want to say hi to Mr. Slick Dissident, My Cherie, Grungy Blues. I haven't seen you in so long. Another tall bear, Sensei Scumbag. Welcome, guys. I can't type anything. I'm going to pay attention to Beth, but welcome. Thank you for coming out. It sounds like my audio went out. Can you hear me?
I can, and it's probably because I muted myself. I'm clicking around, so I just wanted to make less noise. Yeah.
No, click away. The kids love it.
There you go. Say hello to everyone in the chat here.
Yes. So I want to thank you for, making the connection between me and Giovanni Cerrucci. We had a great discussion, and I loved listening to your guys' interview. And he's such a convicted gentleman. Like, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, he is a special guy. It was mildly accidental how we connected, and if I had only listened to him, I might not have tuned in. But I got behind the scenes, like he might be one of us.
Right.
At that deeper level, right? There's us, and then there's deeper us, whatever that is. But
Yeah.
so we had a fantastic conversation, and I really hadn't heard his podcast yet, and so I booked him based on the conversation. And then everyone started, I'll say this very affectionately because I do love the guy. They started warning me, like, how's that going to go? Are you really, you're interviewing him, and do you know him and stuff like that? So
Yeah.
but it went really.
Yeah, I could tell because, usually somebody that's polarized in such a heavy direction, they're going to ruffle some feathers no matter what.
Exactly.
There's definitely no NPR action with him. Like it's all Alex Jones, like, 100% gas, no brakes. But I appreciate those types of dudes, being in sports and construction my entire life. I'm geared to handle that type of personality really well. So I had a really good time with him.
I loved watching you as much as him because you're just so cool. And every time he would say something funny, you'd burst out in joy around
Yeah.
that. And like you guys were really in sync. I love that.
Yeah. Well, I don't ever have anybody on I don't interview anybody that I don't get along with. I know
Of
that
course.
I know that might sound kind of pompous or whatever, but like I shouldn't say that. I've actually done some interviews that I haven't actually put out there because the vibe was so gross, like for one reason or another. And I just won't ever put anything out like that. That's just not I'm not so hungry for like numbers or whatever that. Like I always want to have like a really good, like copacetic I call it a loop current because that's the way I experience where there's a reciprocal exchange, and I find that that's kind of the best way to work, and that's actually like a really good way to lead into what we're going to talk about tonight.
Right on. That's awesome. I'm the same way. I was born and raised in the business world, and we did media training, but for people that would go into very adversarial situations where, someone's accusing them of the latest train wreck poisoning an entire community's water supply, which was true. And then they'd have to face the opposition, and they'd have to like snake their way through questions, and that's not me. I don't do that.
That's
I,
so
I
good.
want to have people on. Yeah, I want to have people on that I genuinely value, and I want to learn from them. That's my primary thing. And sometimes I'm vetting them as well. Just
Right.
full disclosure.
That's good. Absolutely. Now this is sort of, I don't mean to be misogynistic or sexist when I say this. I try and teach all the women in my life, you have to be super selective. I'm such this like protector bear of like, because the majority of my clients are women, right? And so like, I was like, guys, you don't understand how dangerous the world is. Like you really gotta vet people. You really don't just project your goodness and your kindness. Like really see what's actually there.
Very well said. That's exactly what happens. Because it's not necessarily being naive, although that can be part of it, but it's literally you projecting your good and expecting to find it in every place. I talked to someone in my House of Free Will meeting today, and they said their life is mostly full of people that they can't be themselves around. And I've managed to switch it, that the vast majority of people in my life are around me because I'm being myself, and
Right.
they like that for one reason or another. And then it's the odd time I got invited to a family wedding, and I'm already like, I guess I'll just have to like tolerate being in the company of people who don't really know or appreciate me, which is kind of sad since that's the family, but whatever.
Yeah, you can never be a sage in your hometown, right?
Nope, you got it. Humbling and true.
Because they always project their stuff onto you. They think like you're the 12-year-old that they knew, and you're like, no, I'm like a grown ass woman. Like, come on, get with the times.
Exactly. Yeah, people's perception doesn't grow sometimes.
Yeah, that's something I really try and train into, especially like when I'm doing celestic profiles for people. Is like you gotta understand you can never step in the same stream twice. The stream's changing and you're changing. So you always have to understand that there's this like continual metamorphosis. Like that's like one of the best books I ever read. Is like to think that you're in stasis at any point and you capture a glimpse of something from so long ago and that you're that. Like to me that stasis that's almost like being an NPC. That's like being a non-player character. That's like being somebody that doesn't have agency. If you have agency just by just going through the logical progression of agency, you are going to come out and actually have variance in life. You just will.
Right. And do you think that there are some people that stay more static? Because some
Absolutely.
go to great lengths to stay the same. I also wanted to say that, and I bet all your people know this, but you probably did one of the very best readings I've ever received, and I'm a complete snob with that stuff. I've had a lot of people not be able to read me very well at all. And there were so many things that were just really accurate, and I felt very seen.
Well, wait till I get my hands on you because that's the thing.
I know, I know.
That's the thing is because like the whole reason why I got in, I should say the whole reason, astrology made sense to me because my very first massage training was in Ayurvedic medicine, Ayurvedic massage, and they see the body as a concretization of the Mazzaroth. And so like if you're working on somebody's feet and say they have a contraindication in their feet, you know that they have some aspecting going on in Pisces because Pisces rules the feet. And like so it's such a like for me it's literally like there's a phenomenology in it in my hands. And I've progressed through the study of it for now God, I'm 49, 26 years. Like going through it just because like on the table the body never lies. The body never lies. Like I'll have people lying to me all the time and then I'm working on their body and then there will be a submission by the ego and then they'll be like yeah, like the truth always comes out. The body is always like yeah, this is what's going on.
So a cute story. I just watched a meme of dogs trying to feed them lettuce and other poison foods, and then they were always so honest, right? They never would pretend to like something just because it's going to make their owner feel good.
Right.
It's not like that. They would like growl and what's wrong with you? Are you retarded? Stuff like that. And it's like the body, right? It doesn't lie,
It does.
and animals don't either. I would hazard a guess or a
Yeah.
claim even.
I've been around probably a dozen kids that were brought up through baby-led weaning. Have you ever seen what that is?
No, I can guess, but I don't know.
So in baby-led weaning, when the child is breastfeeding and everything like that, you start to introduce food to it, the baby, and you give it something that's not going to choke on. But then you're not like a helicopter mom, you know, you give it like, you know, a soft carrot and you let it like, you know, like play with it in its mouth and it learns to trust its own senses. You know, you're not forcing just mush down its mouth, right? Because like when I was coming up, I was given like formula and I was given like, you know, mush essentially. But with baby-led weaning, you're letting the child like, you know, pick fruit and like do all these other things and it's trying and it's seeing what it likes. And without every single one of these kids that I have seen that have done the baby-led weaning, they know their bodies. They have this confidence in their bodies. And there's other factors, like almost all these kids were, you know, born naturally. They weren't born in like terrible settings. They weren't born in like a, you know, an antiseptic, you know, white light specific area. But they were like, these kids, when it came to the baby-led weaning, as I've watched them progress and grow, none of them have eating disorders. They all know when to eat, and it might not be like, you know, the times like, you know, I eat breakfast at 8 and lunch at 12 and dinner at 6. Like, it's like there's a confidence in their body and they know when to say when. And that wasn't what I had with all my peers. Like when we were coming up, we were all in a constant state of starvation because when we were coming up, we were literally starving and we were given all this slop during times when our body didn't need it. So we didn't even know what to trust. So we just threw it all in our body.
Right. Yeah. Great observation. That's
Yeah.
amazing. My son was one of the few that he never overate. And if you gave him treats, he could have like a huge pile of treats, but he just eats some and leave the rest. Whereas my nephew on the other side, like we would find him hiding under the couch with the rest of the leftover pancakes and the syrup. And he'd be like guzzling and making himself really sick that way, like completely different. And I mean, my son was born naturally, so I don't know if that helped
Definitely.
him. I'm sure it
Definitely.
did.
Speaking of natural birth, Tippy Canoe Herbs, great to see you.
Ah, nice. Hello. Hello.
Yay.
Long time no
Yeah.
talk to.
Yeah.
Slick is there, and hello, Jig.
This is
To see you
fun.
as well.
It's fun. So we wanted to get into how do we navigate the chaos? I think we've already kind of touched a little bit. If you could like regress back and be naturally born and all the rest of it, but let's say you can't do that. I think it's important, at least I don't know how much of my audience is aware of your story, and it's such an uplifting story that I would love for you just to kind of share with, you know, where you came from and the trials and travails that you've actually gotten through, especially with, you know, conquering the big C. I know you have such a healthy way of looking at what the diseased state is and all the rest of it. I would just love for you to kind of give us just the portal in which you came through.
Sure. Yeah. So in 1999, I was diagnosed with a stage 4 lymphoma, and I had been working with my family's firm as a fish out of water. I liked business, but the corporate world was evil at many, many levels. And I gave not my soul over, but I gave my whole body and all my time and any spare energy. And, you know, instead of getting out, I created chaos for myself in a very serious way so that it was a full stop. never went back to work again in that capacity. And I had to fight for my life for 3 years. It was not a little thing by the time I was coming out of denial. And, I'd been using all of the caffeine and the whatever to get through and try to mask and but maybe painkillers. I don't know. Did I use painkillers? Not that much at that time, but whatever I needed to get through. I'm a driver person, rise above person. And then it was just over. And during the 3 years of fighting for my life, I learned a great deal about myself. It became a relentless search for what is the cause of this chaos, because it was completely invisible to me. I could intellectually find all kinds of reasons why I was toxic, about the stress, the crap in the water, crap in the food, you name it. There was lots of reasons why people would be sick, but I needed to find out exactly why I was sick and losing my life. And so I went through, tried really hard to get a natural cure. Didn't work. It, like many natural cures, we don't have to go super deep into this, but it's my new bandwagon. It has a duration paradox. It worked in the short term, and then it was all downhill in the longer term. So my naturopath sends me back to do all the poison chemotherapy, and he thought radiation, which I didn't qualify for anymore. And I poisoned the living crap out of myself and almost died. Had a near-death experience where I thought my life was over. I gave over to death. I let everything go. Everything was gone as far as I was concerned. And that was an enormous revelation. And in death, I found life, right? That strange paradox. It taught me lessons, especially about purpose, why I'm here. And it didn't give me any sentences or full explanations or how it's going to work. It was more like code. Downloaded some code, and I realized that it didn't matter, if I died then, I was still going to have to fulfill on that mission, and I may as well be here and get on with it. So that actually brought me back to life. It was proven that I was in remission at that point, and then tried to recover from all of the 11 months poisoning that I'd been through. In another 18 months, I was diagnosed a second time with the same cancer, which statistically means you're going to die. So whatever that means now, right? So they're like, you're gonna die, as usual. They're always telling me I'm gonna die. And so I was faced at that point with a stem cell transplant, which supposedly saves half the people, but that again is a very major duration paradox. It's a huge violence to the body, of course, but I started to consider the life of the soul and to protect that at all costs, rather than having such a strong focus on my body if it was lost anyway. And I was able to have very big breakthroughs, a second time looking death in the face and still scrambling for what is the root in me that's cooperating with this chaos to the degree of death. And I found it miraculously in archetype work, where I could see the patterns through time. If I checked back and traced my life, I could see the same exact patterns showing up in different ways. I tried to put an end to that pattern, which was not at the time, I call it my rebel side, my rebel archetype. And I tried so hard not to be that rebel that I was killing myself over it, trying to do the right thing, be the right thing, be acceptable in my family's eyes, be acceptable in society's eyes, make money, have a car, have a house, all of those normal things that I couldn't even want before then. And it was not my past. So I awakened to the way that I had denied and pushed away my own true nature. And in that, I went from being a dying person to a living person practically overnight, because I reclaimed energy that was lost to that suppression of myself. And then I never went back, like I said, to my normal life, as I didn't know if I was going to keep living. I knew I wasn't dead, and I told the doctors, hey, I didn't die, and they're like, yeah, whatever. They didn't care, at least one of them for sure. And then I just slowly put my life together in much more of my own image, because I knew that I liked the spirit. I'd been to India 8 times. I became a meditator. I learned the dangers of meditation, by the way, how it's not inherent, but that you can use it as a way to dissociate and leave the body and, evacuate your own nearly everything, be in a kind of bliss, but it's not embodied in any way. And so that's how my body got so sick. Well, I'm so happy up here, but it's like, somebody's hurting and suffering and losing energy. And so, for some years, I just followed my passions and taught workshops in archetypes, and I taught yoga because yoga had just started to become such a craze. So it was a natural way for me. Meditation wasn't so popular, so I had the guise of being a yoga teacher for some years. And then when I had my son in 2007, I didn't want to continue to be in that role. And I had started already to transition myself into more of a coach and to be able to put the work together that I had done following nobody else's system, but to create my own system and processes. And then my work evolved over the years. And it wasn't until my mom died in 2016, right at the end, when I was able to see the archetype work that I had done was in fact the hero's journey. So joke's on me, it was always that. I had the revelation and it was in my bones and in my blood. And then I was able to write my book on that subject and run courses. And I've been doing that work pretty much ever since.
That's wonderful. In the hero's journey, we're all living that one flavor or another.
No getting out of it.
There is no getting out of it. Are you familiar with Philip K. Dick, the author?
Mostly because I've heard Miguel Connor say his name so many times, but no, I'll just say no. I just know his name.
Well, he's pretty much responsible for writing pretty much all the best science fiction stories like the soulful science fiction stories that we've experienced, whether it's Minority Report or Blade Runner. He wrote those stories by different names, and then they were made into movies. But near the end of his life, I think it was 1978, he gets cornered by these questioners in the south of France. He was doing this conference and he was talking about all these different, like his process. And a very astute, person in the crowd was like, essentially asked him, like, how can you have such like these vivid, how can you like actually have all these universes like in your imagination? And he just gave up the ghost. He is like, guys, I haven't wanted to admit this because of schizophrenia stuff, but I've actually lived these stories. Like I've been there, and it's all the hero's journey. It's just in different timelines. It's just in different probability sets. Like this is a probability set that's laying right on top of this probability. He didn't use the word probability set. He was coming from the cybernetics platform, so probability sets in my mind. But he was just essentially like, these are all stacked realities, and I've really lived them. And they were like, well, what's the throughput line? And he said there's two throughput lines. One is the hero's journey, like the hero's journey archetype. And the second is the Bible, oddly enough. And he didn't want the Bible to be it either. Like he was very adamant. Like he's like, where I was in California, where I came up, like I don't like Bible thumpers. I resisted this. I didn't want it. But every universe I traverse, there it is.
There you go. Well, I was just going to quickly say, I remember I had a time where I was going through a Christian, not revival, but reclaiming of my own roots. And I had a Christian friend at the time, and he's going like, your hero's journey, I think that's satanic. And I'm like, dude, have you checked out the Bible and the hero's journey? Like it's all the hero's journey, all of those stories of overcoming, right? It's just one after the other. So
Definitely.
Didn't-
So that's a lot more light. Pew! So I don't think I need that just yet. It's gonna get dark here soon. So yeah, let's get into what the hero's journey is. Like, what is that?
Like you just said, it's an archetype. So it, in and of itself, it is one of those that, like every single human, you have to try really hard not to be going through the hero's journey. And even the refusal of your calling is mapped on the hero's journey. So I consider the hero's journey to be, in fact, a map. And it is a way through what appears to be chaos, because they go through, I say they, there's huge efforts put into making our lives chaos and making everything that we do come from fear, so we're always afraid for our life. We're the only animals on earth that have to pay to live. If your livelihood is threatened, your life is threatened. It's a mess out there. You've got people fighting, you've got division, you've got people dying, and just all kinds of things that make our world seem so disordered. But when you start studying the hero's journey, and that can be the classical stages, I took complete license, by the way, and let it come through me as archetypes, and matching up with things that I had already studied in a way, but mostly I'm doing it subjectively. And then, so to be able to navigate chaos with a map is very different than just like, oh, you're lost, and where am I going, and where am I going to be, and I don't know. And I started to see how purpose is the main subject of the hero's journey, and that purpose and freedom are, if not identical, very close to the same thing. And this is what I lacked when I was working in the corporate world, right? So I was doing work that I liked, but I was doing it for no good reason. And I call it meaninglessness, right? That to go and promote the Rogers next piece of crap that they're going to put out in the market, and that's my job. And I'm like, what am I doing here? What is this about? And I knew there was something bigger than that, but I didn't at that point have the ability or the bandwidth to dive in. So that's why 3 years on my back recovering from an illness was in fact such a gift to me, because I was able to see inside myself. And to me, there's not a single living, breathing soul that doesn't have purpose. Now, there might be beings that don't have that. It's possible there's some evidence for that to be the case here on earth.
Yeah.
But if you have that soul, then it's going to press up, and it's not going to leave you alone. And in fact, that's a big reason why I got so sick, because I wasn't listening to that soul and to that purpose. And it needed to shake me and say, Beth, wake up.
Yeah.
This can't be the whole life, right? That if I was to die having lived that life, it would have been full of regret and the knowledge that I just have to come back and do over. So this map of purpose becomes priceless. And it becomes the very foundation for freedom. Because as soon as you are answering to purpose and you're answering to your calling, your hero's journey, then you no longer answer to authorities out there, the fake authorities. And you're tapping right into the only real authority that is the maker of the archetypes.
Right.
So I see the hero's journey, like all archetypes, as a kind of lens that the energy of God shines through that, projects through that. It's why all the journeys look different, and yet all the journeys are the same at the very heart of it. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I could go deeper if you want, but maybe I'll let you say something.
Well, that's perfect. I had 2 clients today that I was talking to about purpose, which is kind of cool that you brought the word purpose up, because people are talking in the chat about meditation and things like that. Part of what took me out of the world of Vedanta Advaita was I was really diving into the impersonal life, the IMPERSONAL life. And what I saw, I kept meeting people that were going schizophrenic, because when you go impersonal and you become essentially the monad, when you become the all and the everything and the nothing at the same time, you literally eliminate purpose. And I saw so many people go crazy. And I'm a builder. I'm like somebody that puts hands on people, puts my hands on concrete. Like if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Like it just is so. And I'm just seeing my best friend go crazy, seeing another friend have a psychotic break, and I'm like, this is not. And there's like entire psych wards in India that are devoted to people that go down this full on I am that I am, and then they're like lost. Like they literally have zero, they don't have a function, they don't have a purpose. And so, and then I also noticed that when you go to that extent, you don't have a boundary layer. You don't have, you're so permeable, you're so susceptible to attack. And I was watching so much manipulation. My body got ridden with parasites when I was in that frame of mind. And then I got reintroduced to Christianity in a very weird way through the Daime church in the ayahuasca world. Because in the ayahuasca world, they're very conscious that when you take ayahuasca, you are permeable. So unless you have your defenses up, you're going to get run roughshod. So what they use as their perimeter fence that's as tall as it can get is Jesus Christ. And it was very odd to me because I'm like, this is like a very weird thing. And then when I really started to go through the logical progression of it, is like, okay, if you're the monad, if you are the I am that I am, and you are everything and everything is you, there is no purpose and there is no choice. In Christianity, there is a beginning and an end. There is an up and a down. There is a creator and a created. And that creator created you. And I had to ask myself, I was like, did I start myself? Was I the originator of me? No. And any dipshit that tells you that they're the originator of themselves, I'm flipping you the bird. You are totally fooling yourself.
Well, tell them to do it again,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I didn't start me. I have a beginning, so therefore I have an end. I am not the creator. I am a created entity. And I just went through the logical progression. And I'm like, okay, how can, if I'm a created entity, I started reading the Bible, and it was like, there's a personal relationship here with God. Why would God have a personal relationship? And then I was thinking of purpose. It was like, okay, if God knows everything, if God's outside of time, he knows the beginning and the end. He's the Alpha and the Omega. What would be the purpose of having a human family? And I was like, I was really just playing it out logically. And I was like, God would want to have novelty. He gives us the ability to see his creation in a novel way. Like, I will never see the world through Beth Mertens' eyes. You'll never see the world through my eyes. Like, I'll never see the world through Slick Dissident's eyes or Jenny G's. Like, I would like to get to know them well enough where I think I might get to like understand just a taste of the way they see it. But we never get to walk in another person's shoes. And that's like the absolute brilliance. That gives us purpose. And the purpose is for us to be wholly authentic and unique to the way God designed us. Like, your desire set's different than my desire set. And none shall the two ever pass. Like, it's literally like, we might intersect and overlap here and there, but like overall, like, we're all so unique and so different. And there's no mistake in that. At least the people that are actually embarking on the hero's journey,
Right. It's utterly miraculous that you cannot find two the same. And even the identical twins in any species are not the same. And that, yeah, I think you're just nailing it, that novelty is amazing. I was musing the other night, and I live in a physically kind of contained world, like you're seeing it here. This is my world, and I go out a little bit. I'll go to the farm a lot, and then we've got our places that we go, but not into the world that much. As much as I can avoid it, I do. And then so I'm having a lot of the same experience in my physical reality. And I was talking to God about that, and then I just heard this, like, I want to see through that experience. I want, like, there was this, the words are a real approximation. I don't even think I was hearing in words exactly, but I was just so aware that God is very interested in my perception, not necessarily that my scenery changed or that this happened or that happened, although my life is super dynamic in my work and all of that kind of thing, like, crazy so, actually. But yeah, that fascination with, so I've caught myself in the mirror one time and I'm just kind of like dancing and moving, and I'm very aware that God is experiencing through me this unique moment in time that will never be again, like the stream that you talk about, right? And that's amazing. It's so life-giving, and your connection to purpose is a wow. That's an incredible conclusion to draw about that. Amazing. Yeah, right. Like if we're just all one, there's no purpose.
Yeah. It was so cool. I'd like to tell you about my last death experience, my near-death experience that I was conscious of. Um, so I go to India, get super, super disgustingly ill, get back to the United States, and then the ashram I was a part of was like, let's go buy land in Costa Rica. So I go down to Costa Rica and I get water in my ear in one of the dirty rivers that were down, on the coast. And I get this really bad ear infection. So I'm dealing with the infection from India, and then I'm dealing with some crazy infection from Central America. In my body, I hadn't lived there yet, so my body hadn't adjusted to all the stuff down there. And so I get this crazy ear infection. It got into my jaw and everything like that. And I got those ear candle things, because I was pretty granola. I didn't do anything like that. No antibiotics or anything like that. Big mistake. So I did an ear candle, and I remember the ear candle is like pulling out whatever the infection was in my ear, and then I felt it pop, and it went both ways. And
Oh,
so then it got into my head. And so I'm just like, let's just say every type of projectile that could come out of the body in every direction, every orifice, it was happening for days. And
crazy.
my body had gotten so dehydrated that I just started to cramp up. Like I couldn't, I couldn't come out of the cramp, and I was praying to die. Because I had died when I was a little kid, and I loved the other side. And so here's the thing. When you brought up how you were dancing and you knew God was having so much fun seeing experiencing you dancing. So here I'm in this death fist of my whole body is just rah, and I'm praying to die, and here I am trained in Vedanta Advaita, teaching people, and I'm just dropping behind it, back. And I get to this point where it's nothing but pain. And then it was I had this experience of the seer, the big I is just so happy that anything is occurring. This supreme being was just it didn't care. It did not, it was ecstatic about every single little thought, every little nuanced emotion, every little sensation. It was just yes. And I got to feel the joy that sponsors all creation.
Hmm.
It did not care that there was intense pain. It did not care. It was just whatever it was, I got to have like the frame rate slow down so far that every little perturbation of consciousness was just like sponsored with like the whole power of the universe going, yeah. And it was just, and I was like, and then as soon as I saw that and touched it, within 24 hours, I was fine.
Amazing. Wow, what a powerful story. I felt like that in Mexico not too long ago. The same thing, like just going through hell. It was like somebody had a pickaxe to my head and was doing this in one spot for, I don't know, like 12 hours in a row. And it pushes you to that point where you're just, yeah, I think I had a hole there after. Like when the pain finally went away, there was a gap. Pretty sure there was brain damage from that. But I could absolutely feel how the spirit was working through everything. So the joke was on me. I came to give a talk about marrying the opposites and how to function and deal with opposition. That actually would have been a great topic today too. I still want to unpack that like crazy. And then I discovered how I was there to get a PhD in my own opposition because it all came up in Technicolor. I had no defenses. I had no ability to suppress anything. All my energy was tied up in this little war that was going on in my body. And so all I had, it was just like, okay, stand in line, everybody. I'll take you one at a time. Okay, this one, okay, yep, and this one, yep, okay, this one. And I had that same sense of the witness, the presence, the perfection of that yes, I was suffering intensely, but that's, now this is tricky because I think a lot of people might get into like, oh God, that's as if God doesn't care or God is enjoying or masochistic. This is not it at all. But God knows no loss and no lack,
Right.
and so can appreciate everything in its existence as it is in that moment. You know, the good, the bad, the ugly, the everything that is there. Sometimes I joke to myself and I'll ask God, like, do you regret having created us when it gets so messy and so intense and so freakish? And
Not at all.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not at
I
all.
know it's over the top. Yeah, but that's really beautiful. Yeah, yeah, been there a lot. I'm a Scorpio. Well, I guess I'm not a Scorpio to you. I think I'm more a Libra to you, right?
Yeah. Dude, you
Yeah.
are so Libra. Like, whenever I listen to you, like I would use you as a Libra archetype because you're so balanced, you know, like the scales. Like whenever you're in a communication pattern, like when you get with like somebody like me or Johnny Cerrucci or whoever that has a tendency to have like a, you know, a strong polarity to you, you're just like even Steven, you're balanced. You're just like, ah, Scorpio would have a very deep intensity that would be like there would be like an emotion, like you would feel a very strong emotional either acceptance or rejection. There's a side to Scorpio that's so real to me because I have some of the closest people in my life are Scorpios. In fact, I have to say a lot of the closest people in my life are also Libras. And you just have the Libra sun. Like you have that, like I feel like you could be a mediator in any negotiation.
There you go. And I can still relate to the Scorpio thing, but of course, very behind the scenes, right? That might be a little bit more of my persona, and then also to function, because that Scorpio thing isn't so functional, right? If you, every single little thing throws you into some extreme.
Well, Scorpios are really, you don't have, I mean, you went through the scorpionic thing of like going through the death, like the whole dying process. And we have seasons in our life too. Like you could have like some crazy Scorpio prominence when that was occurring. But your demeanor is not scorpionic at
Right.
all. And that's what
Right. There you go.
that's what your sun sign is. It's your demeanor, it's where you receive energy. And I also look at like the way I can tell where a person's coming from is how I receive energy from them. That's their sun sign. And the Scorpios I know, they're all broody, and you're not broody.
I have been very broody. I have been. I have been at times, but like you said, maybe it was a Scorpio season of some kind. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
my family, yeah, my family would, I think, would characterize me like that if they were referring to my past.
Wait, broody
So,
or just being a woman? Because I am sexist and a misogynist.
okay, well now I have to define broody. I'm gonna go check the dictionary. Oh man. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it's there we go. Meditative, contemplative, oppressive. Oh, those are very different. Disposed to sit on eggs to hatch them. Okay, not exactly what I expected, but yeah,
The
oppressive and meditative, those are weird.
Yeah, the oppressive, because the broody is like whenever you're seeing a chicken brood, she's very, very serious and she holds her point because she's protecting her eggs.
Ah,
And if you move her at all, she's pissed. And you have much more of the Libra side of where like I've watched you field many different personalities in like you don't trigger. Scorpios get triggered. And Scorpios are also, from an energetic perspective, you want a Scorpio on your side when like there's something really intense happening around you. They happen to handle like emergency situations extremely well. In normal
okay.
life, they are almost generating circumstances to create emergency. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does. That does. And yeah, if it's in my hands in an emergency situation, like my poor nephew, he fell off a thing, and we're in a campground, very remote from any hospital, and he got a compound fracture, bone sticking out
Eh.
from the fall, like really bad, right? And I am flipping out. And then so I get the job to call the ambulance. Well, I'm snorting. I can't get a single word out. I'm like can barely have, like so I'm not your savior in the emergency department at all.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I'll,
yeah.
I'll,
But I
I
can't mhm.
I had two really close Scorpion friends. In fact, they had the same birthday in Costa Rica. And we went through a couple years there where we had a bunch of earthquakes and a bunch of like crazy like landslides because of rain and stuff like that. And in normal life, these people were absolutely walking chaos. When these emergencies went down, they were like on point. They had things on lock. People were coming to them for leadership. And that's the psychopomp. That's the scorpionic, like, okay, things are for real. Like, it doesn't get more real than this. Scorpios are great around birth and death. Like, they're absolutely the best hospice people. They're the best. Like, I have a guy that works for me now. And when I first did his celestic profile, it was before his Saturn return. And he had all these Scorpio traits, and they were in the 10th house. And I was like, yeah, you do like really well as like a caretaker or something like that. Guess what his job was? He drove dead bodies from the hospital to where they would go dice them up. And no, he would take the cadavers to where they would actually dice them up. Then he would transport the organs. He was literally
Wow,
the psychopomp.
amazing. Yeah, that wouldn't be my job. That wouldn't be high on the list. Exactly. Yeah.
And
Although I've dealt in death, like I've worked in palliative care as a musician, literally sitting there giving comfort to people who are dying. And I get, I got hired to play music at a staggering number of funerals. I don't know. And then people would say one of my CDs was the perfect death music. That if someone was dying, then they would put it on repeat. I'd heard that so many times that they would just go over and over. So somehow I developed it, like maybe the ego of a Scorpio, or like one aspect. I
you
don't
do
know.
not have the ego of a Scorpio.
Okay. Okay.
No.
All right. Well, take it from you. I'll take it from you.
The Scorpio ego is up there with the Leo ego. It goes Leo number one, and it goes Scorpio number two.
Interesting.
No,
Interesting. There you
I mean, we've only known each other for a couple years now, and we only talk every once in a while. So I can't say I like really know you, but I listen to you a lot. And you get to know somebody like when you listen to their podcast or you listen to their streams, like you're connecting with their mind. You're like at least I feel like I can get to know people that way. And
And
you're
I actually, yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, I actually be myself. So if you want to get to know me, you can that way.
yeah.
Yeah.
The energetics that you display, I could see you as a musician. Musician's very Libran also. It's the scales. You know, Libra was called the scales. So like it's right there.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Balance, harmony,
Yeah.
beauty, all of that. Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
wonderful. That's so cool.
Yeah. I keep trying to have a renaissance. Like now I just have the guitars behind me. There they are. It's backwards.
That's
And
wonderful. I love seeing all the. I just signed up for my first piano class. I've never learned music, and I feel in my pursuit of the trivium and the quadrivium, the one aspect of my quadrivium training that I've really neglected is music.
interesting. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. And music is I just was jumping to our topic today around chaos. It's a wonderful marriage of, if the chaos is the feminine element, then music comes along and gives that chaos structure and transforms it into beauty, right? It's not just random sound emitting from an instrument or your voice or any kind of thing. But like one of my favorite things to do is to take sounds in the environment that would otherwise be, could be chaotic or interruptive or annoying at least, or some kind of thing. And I will harmonize with that. So that's probably pretty Libra of me, I imagine.
Yes.
I have a distiller that has to run almost all the time because I'm drinking distilled water and using that for cooking and sometimes even like foot bath or something. And so it's got a hum to it. And I find myself singing to that thing all the time. Luckily, it's not a terrible hum, it's a true tone. But, and then, it's a beautiful way to be in your environment. I would sing to lawnmowers when I was trapped in suburbia trying to heal from cancer and treatments. And I was living with my parents, and lawnmowers are contagious, right? One guy takes the lawnmower out, and that reminds the next guy to take the lawnmower out, which reminds the next guy to take the lawnmower out. And we lived in this kind of round circular thing. And I just learned how to sing to all of them. And then by the end of the day and everybody was done with their lawns, I would be like, oh, is it over? Where'd everybody go? Like this. So, yeah.
That's funny. Have you ever had to deal with the battling leaf blowers?
I haven't learned to sing to a leaf blower. It's got such an ugly sound to it. I can sing boat motor, but no, the dueling leaf blowers. Ugh.
I hate that.
They suck.
Yeah, the dueling leaf blowers have gotten me so angry in Florida. I've literally watched where the last place, well, it wasn't the last place, where my mom lives in Fort Lauderdale. It's pretty urban now. So they have these small little yards, like almost zero lot lines. And you'll have these big trucks pull up and these guys will have these skags and all this stuff. And then they'll start leaf blowing, and then there'll be another company right across the street, and they'll literally be blowing the stuff at each other.
Exactly. And getting nowhere. And yeah, that would go on like for 2 weeks. I know. Here in Manitoba, we have to dump so much crap on the street to not die all winter in the cars and stuff like that. So every boulevard is thick with salt and sand and gravel, and then everyone comes out with their leaf blowers and they gas us because all they're doing is putting that stuff in the air and probably on the neighbor's step. And yeah. So I'm sure there are some.
Slick Dissident Gabriel said, following the letter of the lawn.
Very good. Good one, Slick.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I see some egos popping here. People are like, no, my sun sign's the most egotistic. Here we go. Aries is the most fire of the fire signs. Laugh out loud. No, it's not. That's incorrect. Leo is by far the most fire that there is, because it rules the solar plexus, it rules the plasma ball, the sun. It's the first fire sign, but it's not the most fire. Come on, my Cherie, get with it. Let's go. Yeah, it's funny. I love seeing the comments because I rub people the wrong way a lot of times when I do their profiles, because people are so attached to tropical astrology, and there's like, once you get this story in your mind, I am this, and then you will associate with all the beneficial aspects of that thing. And I always love to see when people are like, no, it's kind of funny to me.
Yeah, it creates some dissonance because that's why I said I have the ego of a Scorpio, because all my life I've been called Scorpio, and I've managed to meld with some of those qualities, or you can pretty much find anything in everyone, right? Like everything in everyone, kind of like a PCR test.
Kind of. I'll tell you this, the ego of a Scorpio, you would be vindictive and you would be backstabbing me, and you'd be writing in chats and you'd be like, this guy's got to die. Like that's a Scorpio ego.
Right, I have a little bit of
that. But everybody has a little, but what I'm saying, that would be the dominant if Scorpio was your sun sign, That's the
right.
That's the difference of it. This is all so much fun. So we have this hero's journey. What are the steps in the hero's journey? Let's just overview that, so for the people out there that don't actually know what that is.
Yeah, the classical steps you want, or mine?
Yours. I want your flavor. Yeah.
Yeah, because I like the classical stages too, and my archetypes are in there. But so I start with the child. Everything begins with the child, or begins again with the child. Mm-hmm. So that's the start, and it's where you are gifted with innocence and have the shadow of ignorance, which can be denial, just pretending that's not happening, trying to go along to get along and do the safe thing, whatever is going to keep you safest, because death is right in the face of the child all the time, just like you are when you're little. Mm-hmm. And this is the time also when you receive a calling. And God is saying, it's time, or do this, or be this way, or have this kind of situation in your life, whatever that adds up to at that time of your life. And so you have the opportunity to receive the calling and walk blindly in faith, or trust, which is the child's version of faith. Or you can refuse the call, go back into denial, go back into sleep, go back into ordinary life and hope for the best, even though your soul is tortured in that. Mm-hmm. And so if you allow yourself to come out of denial, it pushes you forward on the hero's journey into the rebel. Coming out of denial makes you mad. It takes you from the lower end of the emotional scale of apathy, grief, and fear, and pushes you up more into lust, anger, and pride. And those are the prizes of the rebel archetype. They know how to challenge authority and question authority. They're not going to bow down to authority, although kind of interesting, because a lot of rebels will reject mainstream authority and then accept alternative authority. And this is where rebels need to go all the way. Don't, because they've got us on a pendulum swing between alternative and mainstream, and you know what? They're all trying to kill us. And so the rebel is tasked with having a purpose and having a cause, rather than fighting for no reason. They need to know what change really is about for them in their life, and conserve their fight energy. That moves them forward onto the warrior stage of the path, where you task yourself to build out something. You see the mission now, and you realize that it's going to require some building, some brick by brick, some, if I do this now in 3 years, this will exist that could also be built upon. So a much more long-term vision, although another archetype is even longer. We'll get to that one. And the warrior develops discipline and the fortitude to go either out into the necessary battles or into the necessary battles. So by slaying the demons and dragons within and without, that moves them forward. It makes them a champion for the people, and they experience the nurturer archetype. So the nurturers learn to care more for the other than for themselves. But the shadow of that is that they neglect themselves. And they care for others in the guise of service and, wanting humanity to be a better species or whatever you want to call it. But they're really doing it to avoid doing their own work. So a lot of nurturers get stuck. I've done a huge deep dive in the nurturer for that reason, because so many are stuck. That's a really big story. And so once the nurturer develops a lot of boundaries and healthy boundaries, not just learning to say no, but actually finding boundaries that are good for everybody in their life, it moves them forward on the journey to the lover archetype. And the lover's highest value is truth. And truth and beauty are the same thing to the lover. And this is halfway through the journey where they stop referring outward in a more egotistical way, which is not a knock against anybody, but those first 4 archetypes are more about the ego, and now passing into the side of the soul, where it's between them and God, rather than looking and going, am I okay? Am I okay? Am I okay? It's just now, if you ask God if it's okay, God says yes, then you and God are good. And you are tasked to express from your own inner being. No copying other people, no trying to, find a path that's already worn. This is where you forge your own path. Although that began earlier on in the rebel archetype with some pioneer energy. And so the lover has to get past obsession and compulsion, which is how a lot of people approach the truth. That they get so obsessive and they are looking at the lies, and they look more at the lies and what's underneath that and behind the curtain and all of this, all these rabbit holes that don't actually go anywhere. And so by solving out the obsession and the compulsion, it moves them forward into the hedonist, where they can inherit the earth. Some work has been done, some accomplishments have been made, maybe even some wealth has been built, and it's a time to appreciate what is given by God. That we're not here for a pleasureless life or a meaningless life, and the meaning of life for a hedonist is pleasure. And then sorting out the pleasures, the ones that are truly healthy pleasures and the ones that are driven by emptiness, and trying to fill a void, and which you cannot do. The more you fill a void, the emptier it gets. So this is a very big downward spiral for the hedonist, and what they ultimately need to find pleasure in is purpose. And so once they find that very subtle, fine, ultimate pleasure of purpose, it moves them forward on the journey to the king. Very big leap from the hedonist to the king, right? The life of pleasure and leisure compared to the intense responsibilities of the king. And so the king wrestles with power and must find a power greater than themselves, which is only God. And they're tasked to develop a relationship with that, to always be in the mirror of God, looking at themselves, taking inventory of who they are. And if they survive the perils of power, they call in the alchemist, which is the last archetype on the hero's journey. And the alchemist is the advisor to the king, the one whispering in the king's ear. Some people say queen. That I actually started to break this out. There's easily 10 or 12 archetypes within each of these archetypes. By the way, that'll be my next monumental project. And then so the king needs this guidance, and the alchemist is the one who spends the whole life cleaning the mirror. So the mirror could become more and more and more clear with no projections. So when somebody looks to you for guidance or just for anything, they see themselves. And like when you said, maybe I don't get triggered really easily, that's part of that training. Bringing what has been shattered into pieces by the injury of both normal life and the supernatural chaos that we're dealing with, putting those pieces as if back together, but they were never separate. That's the revelation as you heal, that nothing ever really got broken in any way. And that makes you a sage for the people. It brings about great healing. It inspires you and tasks you again to bring the elixir back. It's not enough just to solve your own problems and have a good life and lead the people. You need to actually go back and be able to help those, usually of when you are where they are.
Right.
So that happens all the time where I'm working with people that are, I was in that exact place, and therefore I have the keys for them to a great extent. And then that turns your life into an instrument of nature, a more natural instrument. And it brings you full circle back to the beginning of the child, where nature rules, especially in the nature child. So it is a spiral journey that never ends.
This is wonderful.
And thank you. And I'll just quickly say the purpose of that spiral journey, of that map, is to get off the map. Because it can appear that we're on this ascension journey, and I think you've probably heard me talk ascension
Yes.
already. Yeah. And then so rather than getting addicted to the journey and always like, oh, what's the next accomplishment? Although you still have to do that, but knowing that no satisfaction comes through that. That's just the plan. That's how you keep going and keep being human. And then every single stage of the journey is an opportunity to get off the journey, to go from the frequency to the source of the frequency.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a huge difference with being, the whole false idolship is like essentially giving all this obsession and adoration to the creation instead of the creator. And I really vibe with Jesus's words of like, you're in this world, but you're not of it. Don't store your treasures here. Because this is the temporal realm. It's literally temporary. It's not real. It's like, it's real in the sense that you experience it, but it's not like, it's not the big R, let's say. So in that, I love that. And I really think that the drama, the divine comedy / drama that we live has this ability to actually really be so immersive that it's very easy to think that this is it. Like, this is what I am. This is just how it goes. And, I have friends that on lots of levels are doing really good in life. And I'm like, just be aware. I'm not saying this to be like the Rainier on your parader, but like everything is temporary. Like right now you're saying this because of this. There is a whole nother aspect of self that you're not experiencing because your identification with X. And I really appreciate from the sage Ramana Maharshi, he literally said there's only one problem, and it's identification.
Exactly. Yeah. I heard it said that every problem is a case of mistaken identity.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I want to speak quickly to your point, about the temporary nature of life. Absolutely. And so when you're very accomplished, this is one of the king's problems that, can have a lot of, you say it could be wealth or whatever it is to show for all of the work that you've done, or, well-being in your kingdom, and all kinds of evidence of all of this work that you've done. And it can actually be a minus against you. There was one of the people that I trained with worked for billionaires at a time, and they were all buying and selling yachts and this kind of thing, and they had so much money that they couldn't connect to their temporary nature. It gave them such a deep fake security that they couldn't even feel a program. Right. And the nature of programs in the unconscious is all about death, right? There's actual death programs, and every other program is pointing towards death through the lack of, could be lack of love, lack of control, lack of life itself, lack of oneness, lack of wholeness, lack of perfection, lack of being good enough, lack of being enough, and a few other sorted ingredients in there. Not very many. They're actually archetypal at the program level. And so if you have no adversity in your life, it's possible that you will not bump into the program.
Right.
And you might think, oh, yay, what a great life. You're going to be that's so fantastic. It's like, no, that's actually a tortured life, because it means that the programs are always going to be ruling from the unconscious. And that's the problem. If there's any problem with humanity, that's the problem, that we're being ruled from this unconscious. And so, it's been fascinating. I have developed my life to a degree where I don't have a lot of huge problems. Like I'm fed, I'm taken care of, my needs are met. I don't have huge breakdowns. Losses can happen. I lost both my parents. That's, part of normal life, but things aren't falling apart or going crazy. I don't have a lot of chaos, but I get to meet the chaos in here, and I stay connected with, all the people that I work with, students, clients, and I vicariously go through the chaos with them. And it's part of what allows me to continue to bring up my own programs. Plus, when you have not so many problems out there, it becomes more obvious that the problem is here.
Right.
And then so great security, it works against you. It makes you go into denial about the temporary nature of life, that you're somehow invulnerable to that.
Yeah.
Which is not true.
It's human nature that we don't handle success well. Like I have a lot of people ask me, like, why is there so much tragedy? And I simply say, because we don't handle success well. And this is to your point, it's like it would happen all the time in sports. You'd have somebody that would have a great season, the success goes to their head, they don't commit, they don't do all the little things that they need to do, and the next season they don't do well. This happens for any performing artist. Is like humans by nature, whether we want to admit it or not, when things are going too well, like the billionaires that you bring up, we kind of lose the plot.
I know. Do you think, Topher, that we need adversity? Because some people will say that, like, in that dualistic way, that if we don't have darkness, we can't have light. I call bullshit on that, because we have a pure source.
I don't think we needed adversity. I think we need surprise. See, this is the thing, is like
Novelty.
What people call adversity is just a surprise. So I reframe it. I'm like, we don't need adversity. We need surprises. Because like,
nice.
When you think you got things on lock, I'm the man. Because I had distinction at one point in my life. I literally had a dozen CEOs as my client. Some dipshit yogi massage therapist in the backwoods of the Costa Rican cloud forest. I was the advisor to all these CEOs.
Nice.
But I'm telling you, all of them, to the one of them, the reason why I resonated, or why they resonated with me, was I read this book called Vagabonding when I was 24 years old, and it changed my life. Because the author, he talked about be the irrational flaneur, be the fool, as the fool card in the tarot. Just go. Like, go. Just go and do. Like, you're never going to fail. Even when you fail, you're not failing. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? And I'd already touched death. So I was like, yeah, what's the worst thing that could happen? And so I let my life just be like, oh, I'm not planning for retirement. I'm not doing this. I'm literally just following the curiosity of whatever God put in front of me as like, oh, I'm now into earth bags. Oh, now I'm into Victor Schauberger. Oh, I'm now into like toning. Like whatever was there, I just kind of followed. And it was like, I was the exact opposite of these dozen CEOs because their life was so regimented through success. And they were so scared that they were going to be voted out of their seat or that their company was going to lose profits, that they could never touch the muses. You know, I know Gabriel's in the chat. We talk about the muses all the time. The muses want the gifts that you give them. Like I tell everybody to watch the Sharon Stone movie. I forget what it's called. It might be called The Muse. I forget. But she plays the archetype so well where it's just like, no, you're supposed to reward me with presents before I inspire you. Well, the muses, they love courage. That's what they want. They want the person that's the irrational flaneur that's throwing like all caution to the wind and like, you know, fortune favors the bold. It's like, step out of your comfort level. And I think what occurs, God is so benevolent to us. He's like, yeah, you pesky Americans, you have the highest like worldly income in the world. Let's just pulverize some buildings in front of you and see how that changes things. Or like, let's just like create a fake whatever that causes the world's economy to shift, 50% of the wealth to like, 2 people. Let's just do that because you guys you're getting too comfy. You're getting too like cozy in what you think is going to happen. Like we can get into like all the conspiracy theories and everything, but the way it's actually read through the body, it was a surprise. It was a surprise. And I love the author Nassim Taleb because he gets into the outlier events and he talks about outlier events so much better than Malcolm Gladwell. God, is that guy a shill. But like...
Yeah, The Black Swan. I think I've got a few of his books right here. I also like them.
Yeah, Anti-Fragile to me is one of the best books that were ever written.
Best. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge influence to me.
Yeah, like I've reread that thing probably 10 times. And the whole point of Anti-Fragile, for those of you out there that don't understand the premise, is like, he's like, it's best to build systems within yourself of skills where you're resilient to change. Because the one thing you can count on in this world is change. Like things change. It's like how we started off this conversation. You can't step in the same stream twice. You cannot. You will not. And even if you think you are doing it exactly the same, 10 years on, your body's not the same. You won't have the same reflexes or things are different, whatever. So like being anti-fragile is this notion of like when things break down, you have a resilient skill set where you can actually succeed, when that's occurring. And I love that notion because the Black Swan events are things that we could never have guessed. And that's and when I look back at my life and I'm really honest, I have gotten everything I ever wanted. And but the things I had no idea that were coming out of left field that hit me and I was totally surprised about, those were the best things. the things I never predicted, the things I never was like, oh my God, you're brilliant. Like, you know, we don't know what's best for us. We really don't. I really love to like pound that home. Is like, you think you know what's best for you? Guess what? You're coming from a very limited scope. Very limited scope. They're your higher self in the upline to God. They know what's best for you.
Yeah, all you have to do is go back, or for me at least, and see what I wanted. You know, I wanted to be part of this crappy little music industry in Canada, and it rejected me wholeheartedly. And it's like so great that it
Yeah.
did, because that life was, you know, not good for a lot of reasons. And it just wasn't for me. So that was the best thing ever. And a lot of experiences like that. Every time I got rejected in a circle or in a with a group of people, I wanted to belong so badly for a time. And I finally got the message that if I'm going to belong, it's going to be because I created that world, and I started it, and I can, in fact, you know, morph with it and change it as I change. I was just thinking also, when you're talking, both the rebel and the alchemist are very anti-fragile. The rebels are one of the very few that love change. They love it. It's fresh and it's new and it's exciting. And then the alchemist thrives on it too, because that's exactly how transformation happens, and that is their highest value.
It makes
So
sense.
yeah, that's yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go and try to find that movie. But surprise, man, that's beautiful. That's such a nugget. I'm gonna start using that, Topher, because say when I'm teaching people how to do deprogramming, right now I'm training a group, but they're just about to graduate tomorrow. In fact, after a 7-month training, very big undertaking for them. It's a hero's journey. They all go through hell and heaven and everything in between. And it is a constant process of surprise. And it must be, because the moment that you become adept to any, you know, phraseology or any kind of script or any process or system or anything like that, it doesn't work anymore.
Right.
There has to be a certain element. And then so sometimes I'll instruct someone like, could you see that as a program, like you've never seen a program before? Or could you feel that feeling like you've never felt any feeling before? And
Yeah.
always bringing ourselves, because it's the paradox that everything is always new, but we have the brakes on. Like there's this idea that we will be safe if we can control and stop, or at least slow or retard that change. And it's really quite the opposite. Then you end up spending a lot of energy invested in all the wrong places. But thank you for that surprise. I love it. Yeah.
I was very fortunate that in my mid-20s, I was exposed to Gurdjieff. And part of Gurdjieff's whole thing was, you know, do what you do on a daily basis, but do it a different way. So I endeavored for like a full 6 months to never go the same way to work, to never eat things the same way, to not even have like a meal plan. And I really was like fighting my conditioning. And it was so great because that got me ready to leave the United States and move abroad. So when I did move abroad, I wasn't shocked. Like I didn't have these deep grooves, you know? Like I didn't have these like ruts in my consciousness of like, this is the way it should be. Like every December 25th, you celebrate Christmas, or, you know, on this, you know, none of that was in my system because I had been conditioning myself to try something new, look at it a different way, go a different route. And I really love that about Gurdjieff, was like he was insistent that like what the way you just said it was perfect. Like even if you think you're doing the same thing, you're like, it is different, but it's really good to give your being the way I thought of it, because I was a high level athlete, they call it variability in training. Like when you weightlift, let's say, if you like say you're doing a bench press and you're only pressing with like just say a regular straight bar, you might get strong in that one motion, but the consistency of always doing it the same way actually weakens your body. You lose overall strength. Where
Wow.
if you do it one day with the straight bar, and then you do it another day where you have free weights, and then you do it another day where it's on a concentric, band. All these variances in training, now the body is, because it's having like this slightly scared response, it actually opens your hormones up. I've read a bunch of Stephen Kotler's books. He had a great book years ago called Engineering Superman, and he was looking at the best athletes in the world, best performers, not just athletes. And there's always a sense of danger that opens up the hormones of, I forget what the name of the hormones were, but essentially danger had to be part of the unknown, the surprise had to be part of it for you to access these higher parts of the brain. And I got to tell you, I'm that way. I am so tamasic. I have so much earth energy in my system. God has to shock me, has to go, come on, get out. Like, we'll have an emergency situation on the top of a dome and like metals flying and like, there's lots of people close to getting really hurt. And then that's when like the seriousness of the situation, the skin in the game, as Nasib Talib would put it, along with Kotler's hormones, like they're all there, and then you just become better. You just get better. You're just a better being, right? And
Right.
it's just, and like I'm trying to train that into my guys is like, you have to have the openness to allow the situation to inform you, and then have the confidence that whatever the situation is giving you, you'll be able to handle. Because the control freaks don't have that. Like the CEOs that I was talking about, and a lot of them were great people. When I say control freaks, I'm not demeaning them. It's just like a lot of people that have this like need to control incessantly. It's literally because they don't feel like they can handle variance.
Right. Yes. Fascinating. So this is one of the things, the principles of training coaches is that if you want your clients to maybe excel and take risks and go be on their hero's journey and create amazing things, then you do it.
Right.
Right? You can't just sit there and be the coach and like, oh yeah, rah rah. And by doing that as the coach, you're always putting yourself back in that place where you're actually back to the child. You're back to the beginning. You don't know again. It's the unknown again.
Right.
And because you gain adeptness as you go. There's many things that were frightening to me before that I do every single day now. So I inevitably find some way to be afraid again, to be on my edge, to be unsure. Every time I get asked to give a talk, I end up picking some new topic. I have to reinvent the wheel again. You too? Okay, yeah. Like you should have seen how much I prepared for my marriage of the opposites. I'm gonna get to work and really get out there with the message because it's absolutely huge. And I just did a PhD on this subject, and I made a beautiful presentation, and I missed it. I was laying there, I couldn't even go, but I did eventually get it. And why do I need to do that? Because it becomes alive for me. I could just go out and read about other people's take on it. There's no shortage. I know. When I even consider myself an inventor, it's sort of a joke because many great ones have come before me. But when I dig in and I discover it inside myself, the real deal, and I can demonstrate it, then it's so exciting. And then never mind getting in front of people and is anybody gonna get it? Have I just been in my own rabbit hole? This is the lover's task to be seen, even if you're not perfect yet, and that's how you find out where you're at, when you get the reflections of others. And so it's fun, and it becomes kind of like a snowball or a dust bunny, not snowball, more like a dust bunny that gathers as it goes. That's not a very good metaphor either, but but that it gains momentum,
Yeah.
and it becomes more fun, and it's more courage than it is fear, which actually resonate equally against each other. If you got courage, you got fear. If you got fear, you got courage. And
our body doesn't lie. Our body does not lie with that. Literally, that's the number one thing you'll teach, competitors in high performing athletics is like, the fear is good. The fear is natural. You're not trying to suppress the fear. You channel that fear into right action. That's what you do. Like, the best competitors actually, they do feel fear. They can feel the weight of the situation. The ones that don't, and then that, once again, our hormones, our adrenaline, everything gets accessed at that point. It's just like a mother that can, push a car out of the way, if her baby's under it or whatever. It's just like, no, she's not telling herself, don't feel the fear, calm down, and then gently push the car. It's none of that. She's fully feeling it, and the power comes through the full feeling of it, the full and utter total expression of it. And the best athletes, the best performers I've ever been around, every single one of them are nervous before their performance. You would think the best performers, especially after they've done it over and over and over again, because part of the fear is it's important to you. You've got skin in the game.
Yeah, that's the lover too, by the way. And then that's the element of surprise in my case. So when I do things, I might give a class and the fear never comes, but maybe it comes after. Or you're like, oh my God, what did I do? Or what did I say? Or did I miss this? Or something like that. Or, I thought after being sick for 5 days, I'd be scared to get on stage. Well, I wasn't. I didn't feel any fear at all. But it'll come as a surprise when you don't expect it. Or, I'll get on. Who was I about to talk to? And I felt so afraid all of a sudden. And it's like, oh, fascinating, right? Like, that's not a normal thing where I have a guest on and then I feel afraid. That was more in the earlier days. So it keeps, no, but I have to say, I am a rebel when it comes to fear, and almost everybody argues with me about this. But I would say that in that case, or any case where, say, the mom is lifting a car off of her baby, it's not the fear that is lifting that car. That's the force of life itself. And that it's in spite of the fear that would happen. So people think that they're going to lose their, I think there's like juju or something, I don't know how to use that expression very well, but they're going to lose their edge, as an athlete or a performer or whatever it is, if they don't have fear. Now, the opposite of fear is not apathy, because you were describing that earlier, when you go into a place of like not caring, or even pride, way higher up the scale, like, oh yeah, I've got this, I can handle anything. And that's when you tend to do your worst. But so these are the three stages that I see. You go from a place of I can't programming, which is much more fear-based. And then you get into the I can programming, which is more courage-based. And beyond those, really where everything can come from the most naturally is I am. Right? Again, off the map, where the energy can come through. So I don't think that fear is necessary. It comes, it's a surprise, you get to deal with it. But what I've noticed from my studies is that fear programming, which is under the fear of, like, it's under the emotion, this is the result of being in a death cult.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But this is not the nature of our realm. The nature of our realm is abundance and flourishing and thriving and life, the cup of life running over, not the lack and the fear of the lack and the wanting and all of that kind of thing, to me is not necessary.
I can be a little bit more clear because I'm talking about this within the context of like what Stephen Kotler is talking about in our physiology. So what he's trying to point out is like, how do performers enter the zone? Because the zone is essentially this selfless, fearless space where your being reaches its full potential. That's just the best way to say it. But there's indicators that bring you there, okay? And so what he points out in the 2 books that I read of his is that when you're in the zone, obviously you have no fear. Like when the mom tosses the car, or like when the dude is like, fights off 5 people to defend his family, he's in the zone, right? And like, I know Slick Dissonant, like any martial artists will tell you this too. You do all this training when you're under stress, under fear, all this stuff. So like when the situation actually happens, none of that's actually present. You're just in the vibe, in the moment. And there is no fear, like you said. There is no restriction on being. You've kind of pre-stressed that member. That's an architectural term. You've pre-stressed that joist or that whatever.
Ooh, nice. Pre-stress. I love that. Writing that down too.
So that pre-stressed member, then when the stress happens, it handles it like with zero fear. But
yeah,
there's a physiology to it. And the physiology is where I come in, because that's where I'm working with people, is their physiology most of the time. Is that even if they get, like, let's say they have that moment where they're in the zone and they perform the way they need to perform, there's always a tax to pay after, no matter what their frame of mind was. So you could have the best boxer in the world that wasn't scared, and he was in the zone, and he wins the 12-round TK with a TKO at the end. Afterwards, his body is hamburger. And I've seen this over and over and over again. That person that evaded some sort of thing because they were completely in the zone because of their pre-stress member, their physiology isn't lying afterward. Their physiology afterwards is like, man, the Grim Reaper didn't get me, but I feel like the Grim Reaper got me.
So interesting, Topher. So that would speak to me more of transcendence, right? That I went through the first half of my spiritual life thinking that that's exactly what I needed to do to get in the zone. Mm-hmm. And not that I was doing Olympic feats of any kind other than in the corporate world. I was. And then there's always a cost. But I think there's also, well, and I know this. And that's why fear is not actually necessary, but it's necessary to go through the fear. Mm-hmm. Because if you just go into denial and you suppress the fear, then it's always there. It's again ruling you, much more so from the unconscious. So I think the true I am, there's no cost to that. But the zone can have a very high cost. Mm-hmm. This transcendence of the physical, where you even hormonally, you're going to be on endorphin, you're basically on drugs. You could take drugs that would emulate that, and you don't feel the pain, and you don't feel the wear, and you don't feel, experience the harm that you're doing to yourself. So, it's good to a point. I mean, many of those athletes might have regret for having done that to themselves when they're 40 years old and half crippled already.
Yeah.
So there is another path.
Yes, there is.
And yeah. So.
Well, there's always, I always like, because, it was really funny in the meditation world that I was in, it was populated by nothing but pro athletes. And the reason why that I discerned from it was all of us had performed in very high stakes environments and did very well for ourselves. But each one of us, if we were honest, when we performed our highest, we weren't doing it. And so there was this I am presence that was being perfect. And then the ego would come back in afterwards. And so all of us were like trying to meditate to like figure out like, wait a minute. All my investment, all my time, everything I did, once again, the problem's identity, none of it mattered, because when I actually was at my best and I was clean and perfect and awesome, it wasn't me doing it. who is this like upper echelon awareness that's sponsoring this? And that's what the meditation world, that at least in the waters I was swimming in, that's what we were all trying to figure out, because that becomes a real sense of depression for people that are high performers, is like they don't get to touch the zone anymore. The zone was the gateway to the I am.
Right. Fascinating. Yeah. Wow. This is deep.
Yeah.
You're deep, Goto.
You're swimming in the deep Piscean waters, not as deep as Scorpio, just kind of deep, just like swimming in all directions.
Nice. I like it. Yeah, and there are multiple roads, and the experiment always, but to me, the experiment, if it results in a loss of energy, then there's some problem in the system. And, you can get a job done, you can make accomplishments, but if you want, if the real goal and the real purpose is freedom, then it's always pointing to where the energy is in abundance, that will always be the hallmark or the stamp of that thing that we want to call an experience, but it's not. It's off the map. It's the source of experience.
That's wonderfully said. That's what I totally agree with that. Well, Miss Beth, where can people find your work? What are you offering, lately? Like, do you have another program coming up that you want people to be aware of?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I appreciate that. So as I mentioned, I'm just graduating my sixth class in 5 years of what's called the Journey Code Coaching Certification Training. And this was my alternative to just laying down and dying in 2020 when I didn't know what to do. I'm like, oh, is it just time to prep and put my head between my knees and cry on the floor? Then God's like, no, create. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did. And as I'm graduating this class, I'm actually preparing and starting to have conversations with people that would join again in September. It is a big commitment. It's a 7-month deep dive immersion. It is going to change your life. It's going to turn you inside out, and it's going to make you of great service to other people. That's my hidden agenda, is that there's more people out there who can, for those that can go to the depth, that there is a resource for them for that. And so you can put up your hand, visit me at bethmertens.com, fill out literally any form there. Just let me know that you want to have a talk. It is by interview only. I'm not being a snob. It just has to be the right kind of person and the right time for that person as well, because I don't want anyone in so over their head on that one. And if you're just starting out, say with archetype work, I've created a quiz that would I be able to share a link in your chat? Maybe not, because I don't think I have a thing there, but I could send it. Can you put it in the notes or anything? Or people can just visit my website. Yeah, they can visit my website, bethmertens.com. And then if you scroll about halfway down, you'll see a form to fill out for the King Hero's Journey archetype quiz. And in 10 minutes, you find out where you are on the path of purpose. Have you done the quiz yet, Topher?
I have
okay,
not.
Well, this is so funny. Oh, yeah, that'd be so fun. Especially for next time, if you're going to come on my show again, then that'd be fun. We always end up chatting about
I would come out
archetype.
Emperor.
Could be. Yeah. I'm definitely reading some King on you. Yeah, some Alchemist on you. Reading some You're actually very well rounded. You're not pigeonholed into like a screaming this. Some people are.
Yeah,
And so that quiz.
it's my Piscean nature.
Okay, there you go. The fluidity, the water. Yeah. Yeah, so that quiz is fun. There's 10 videos that, or not 10, but 8 videos, one for each of the archetypes that you can watch after. And people make some big changes based on a little bit of self-awareness goes a long way. And one of the other things that I started doing this year are archetype readings, which, you know, you're a reader, you know that. And
Yeah.
I've always been a reader, but I've never actually had a service of reading your archetypes. So I experiment. That was one of the ways I scared myself this year, was to begin doing that.
Good.
And it's so fun. I really, really love it. I had to get far enough past the people that might accuse me of being a Satanist to you know, to be able to do that comfortably again.
She's a witch. She's
yeah,
a witch.
exactly.
Burn her. Burn
And then if you want to be yourself, be that archetype reader. That's something that I train my advanced students in the Journey Code world to do. And yeah, I think there's a lot more. I've got courses, Find Your Sacred Purpose, Primal Power for those that are scared to death and know it and are brave enough to admit that. Most people are, I'm not afraid of dying, and sorry to make fun of everybody that says that, but it is the core. It is the core fear, and people are going to find it until it's all gone for everybody. You're still going to find it. And that's that course. And there's a course, The King Hero's Journey, named after my podcast, where you can go through the 8 archetypes as a course and get coaching along with that, so you can learn the tools of deprogramming for yourself, which are very simple, but can also be incredibly elusive, because you're literally dealing in the unconscious what you don't know and see and feel about yourself. So this work is very liberating. It leads to freedom. If you want freedom, then this is a good place to work.
That's brilliant. I always love listening to you. There are a bunch of people in the chat say that they can listen to you all day. I know I can. I was actually recommending you to a couple people I know that were stressed out today. I was like, just listen to Beth Mertens. By the way, we should film your public flogging of me, where you actually whip me for misspelling your name, and you're like, you know, you make me repent. Like, have it be like leather with like nails, or like, you know, something, and like really give it to me for misspelling your name.
Oh, funny. Yeah, you're completely forgiven. I guess that's not the nails you're looking for there, but yeah, no problem. I'm thrilled to be here in this conversation with you, Topher, because it's, I don't know, I felt kind of dumb when we met in Acapulco. You came and introduced yourself, and I've heard your name. I had heard your name for years already, but I just never really, you know, got into your work or watched you and that kind of thing. And then I'm walking away and I'm going like, oh my God, that's Topher Gardner, like this. And so I just appreciate you so much. I appreciate your work, and I appreciate how like sweet and personable and approachable you are, that you don't have a huge ego based on your work, and yet it's great. So
Thank you.
All that to say, I feel really happy to be here.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, let's sign out. Let's stop streaming. Thank you, chat, for coming out. Any of you people that are going to see this in the future, listen to this in the future, you can check Beth out at bethmertens.com. You can check me out at topherhq.com. And yeah. And also, do you have a Telegram chat by chance?
Oh, thank you for asking. I always forget to tell people. Yes, it's called the King Hero channel, and then the King Hero chat. And
Awesome.
That's interesting. Yeah. Telegram always takes my subs away. It's amazing. Like every day there's a few less subscribers. I had a law channel that was huge, and it's just like gone down. And I know people aren't really Xing out. They're just killing those channels, but I have a really good admin now who keeps control of all the bots, and they're beautiful. They just kind of swooped in to help me. Really,
Awesome.
really great guys. Yeah, so good. So please do join me on Telegram. I would love that. The House of Free Will, if I could say one last thing about that, is my private association. It's so private, I forget to talk about it. And
That's private.
that's really private. It's where I am I'm myself, but I'm even more myself in there. I will talk about all the private things that I won't say in public. People get to know me in a much more intimate setting. It's a small association. There's only 150 members, so it's easy to get to know people and have a relationship with them and just demonstrate that we can get along and be with people that appreciate us and we appreciate them, and that's how I think things were meant to be.
That's wonderful. I didn't know that you had that going on.
Oh, well, there you go. See? Yeah, and it's by application only. So you have to find that at my website, which is not hard. Yep, yeah. I was taking
Snaz.
myself, yeah, I was taking myself very seriously at the beginning when I was indoctrinated by all the private law propaganda, which turned out to be a bunch of crap. And but I still like the application process because then I'm going to only get the right people. This is not my business. I don't make any money. Any donation that's made, as little as $3 a month, goes to paying my assistant to run the whole infrastructure of that website. But it is a chance to build relationships and have that experiment of just getting along over the long term and getting educated and going beyond the surface of the truth. Like, let's go all the way. Why not?
I love that. I love that. And that's why we're friends. Beth
Amen.
Mertens,
And I'm so coming to Missouri for a reading and for some body work.
come on. I'm building a city here. Let's do it.
And yeah, to get a dome. I want a dome. I just want you to know. I have a tiny home here. I could have a dome out there.
Yeah, and for those of you out there, I'm going to be speaking at Confluence. I believe that's
Yeah.
May 7th through the 12th in Bandera, Texas. If you guys want to sign up for it, you can get 10% off with Gardner 10. And I'm going to be speaking about the domes and things like that I build. You guys can kind of see, like, this is like a little stylized blueprint. Yeah, we're having fun, and I'll be talking about appropriate technologies. And so it's about like really kind of learning how to read land, learning how to read your client, have the needs of the two meet in a very synergistic way and create something beautiful and durable. So I'm stoked to speak about that.
Fantastic. Well, I'll be there in spirit. Everybody I know and love is going to be there.
Yes.
And it's not my turn. I will definitely go in the future. But yeah, give
Awesome.
everyone my love.
I will. Well, have a wonderful evening, Beth.
Thank you so much. You too.
Bye-bye.